So as you can see, good morning, everyone, by the way. Just said hi to Catherine. I'm saying hi to everyone now, everyone in the room, which is Catalina, Patricio, Sara, and Vanessa. Let me invite the rest of your classmates to join us. I'm inviting some of you. Okay, and I decided to start this session with a short quiz. This is a formative quiz, so you don't need to be afraid or nervous. It does not have a grade involved, okay? So the quiz says, based on the mid-sagittal views provided. The mid-sagittal views are these images, right? These diagrams, pictures, if you will, and showing the vocal tract. So the idea is that you explain which consonant sounds are being shown in the pictures. Remember that consonant sounds can be described in terms of voicing manner and place of articulation. So I'm not saying that you need to give a very specific answer, saying, for example, the sound or the sound p or the sound but in general, what kind of sounds are produced in the first picture, first image? What kind of sounds are produced in the second one, and what kind of sounds are produced in the third one? Okay. So I'm going to give you some minutes to reach an answer or find an answer. A clue would be that you need to focus on that and compare that area, which is the larynx or the voice box where the vocal cords are, and you can compare them in the three images. Also, you need to focus on that area, right? There you have a glimpse. If you have a sharp eye, probably you already saw the answer. Okay, so if you compare this area and this area and this area, and you take a look up this section, what kind of sound is the one produced here?
M.
Okay, and can you be more general? Not that specific sound, but in general. For example, how could you describe M? Or actually because the phonemes is a
Bilabial.
bilabial, exactly.
Nasal
And voiced sound, exactly. So we can take here that the vocal folds are vibrating, so it's voiced. Bilabial because of the closure of the two lips, exactly. Okay. All right. So it's a bilabial. It's voiced, and it could be a stop, right? Because we're stopping the airflow, by the two lips touching here. What about number two? What kind of consonant sounds produced? Here I gave you three clues. Any idea, guys?
Alveolar.
Okay.
Voiced.
Voiced. Perfect. And okay, I'm going to show the answer. So it is voiced, it is alveolar, exactly, and it's a nasal sound because you see the velum that is lowered here. If you compare this section, right, in the diagram, with this one and that one, you see that in the first and in the third one, the passage is blocked, right? The airstream cannot go through the nasal cavity in number one, number three. But in number two, this is a bit open. There is a narrow passage, so the airstream can escape through the nasal cavity as well as through the mouth, as long as there's an opening here, right? And number three, what do you think?
In number 2, the letter is N or no?
In number two, the letter, mean let's not confuse letters and sounds or letters and phonemes. Uh, because, for example, if you look at the question, sorry, if you look at the instruction and you read the second word, based, right? Based. Um, if you spell the word, you spell the word as B-A-S-E-D. So that is spelling, letters, right? Now, if you focus on sounds or phonemes, we need to think of B, A, S, T, right? So the sound could be right? Because the tip of the tongue is raised. We touch the alveolar ridge when we articulate that sound because the velum is lowered, right? And there is vibration. So yes, that is correct. The sound could be not the letter, okay? The sound or the phoneme. Yes,
Good.
good answer. And number three, what do you think?
Velar.
Velar,
Velar, right?
voiceless,
Voiceless.
Oral.
Oral, all right?
Stop.
Exactly. It is an oral sound, it is voiceless, it is velar, and it is stopped because um, the back of the tongue, right, is touching the alveolar ridge and is for at least a fraction of a second stopping the airflow from leaving through the oral cavity, right? Okay, good. Um, was it too difficult, the quiz? Do you think we can replicate it later with a grade? No? Okay, here you can find the same mid-sagittal views, right? This mid-sagittal views that I showed you, you can find them here. And the good thing about these is that you can play around. Let me show you a bit of what you can find here. Just allow me a second to find the website because I was just working with it. Okay, here we go. Uh, okay, this is one of our websites uh, by a university in Toronto. And for example, if you play with this, if I click here oral, you see that the passage is blocked. And if I click nasal, it's open here, right? For example, if I click here, voiceless, you see that there is this straight line here. And if I click voiced, you can see that picture is showing vibration of the vocal folds. If I click here in stop, right? So, or alveolar, right? I can see in the picture here the graphic representation, but also I can see the IPA symbol, the phonetic symbol representing that particular sound. Because when we're producing n, as in no, nine, never, right? It is an alveolar sound. The tip of the tongue is right here, touching the gum or ridge, right? It is a stop, right? Because we're stopping the air. In terms of nasality, it is nasal, definitely, because the velum is down here, and it is voiced. Okay, so this is a good website. This is a good tool that you can use. This interactive sagittal section for you to take a look at the different positions in the oral cavity. I'm going to post the website's address in the chat, okay, for you. And the other one that I wanted to share with you is this one that I'm going to post as well in the chat for those of you who are interested in. Okay, which is quite similar, by the way. Okay. Now I'm going to go back, and in any case, if you find websites, right, please let us know. Okay, if you find websites that can be used by anyone, please share them. Right, do not keep them just to yourself. Okay, I wanted to share with you a task, which is something that is connected with applying the theoretical aspects to an activity that you might find interesting, because it connects with a resource that you're going to find. Okay, the task is the following. Okay, you're going to choose a movie or an interview. I'm sorry, I'm sharing a PowerPoint slide. Can you see the PowerPoint slide that says task?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Perfect. So you can choose a movie, an interview, a speech. You can find someone giving a speech in TED Talk. You can find that in YouTube, which is quite interesting. You can even use a song, okay? The point is selecting a resource in which someone is speaking, someone in English, right? Someone is talking about something that you are interested in. It could be something that you consider interesting or something that you want to find out about. Okay? For how long? For 30 seconds. Okay? And what you're going to do with those 30 seconds is you're going to transcribe what the person says, what the speaker says in plain English. Okay? Like the script in a movie, for instance. And then what you're going to do with this 30-second transcription is that you're going to describe just the consonant sounds, okay? In terms of voicing, place of articulation, and a manner of articulation. An example is given here. Let's suppose that you find the word character. In character, the initial sound is k, which is voiceless, which is velar, and which is plosive. Okay? So that's basically the task. Now, what happens if you find the same sound twice or three times? You just describe it the first time, and then the next time you skip it. If you find k again in another word, for example, the character continuously consider himself, so the character continuously consider, all of them have the same initial sound k. Just describe that sound once, okay? Not 3, 4, 5 times, because what's the point on repeating the description? Because the point of this activity is to show, well, first to apply the theoretical knowledge, okay, into one specific recording. And second, to show evidence of your knowledge about this, that you are actually you're able to describe this particular consonant sounds. Okay. So far, any comments or questions?
Uh, yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It is supposed that the order of the criteria of the consonant sounds
Mm-hmm.
is voicing, place of articulation, and manner of articulation, right? That's
We
the
can.
order to describe.
Not necessarily, not necessarily. We can agree on a specific order, but it's not really defined that the specific order to describe a consonant sound should be first voicing, then place, and then manner.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we can. But I strongly suggest that you yourself keep it consistent. So if you decide on one specific order, you keep that order throughout the task.
The same with vowel sounds, right?
The same with vowel sounds, exactly. Although description of vowel sounds is not required for this specific task, right?
Yeah, no, but I know, but it's
But
just
in
for to know.
yes, yes, in general, exactly, there is not a specific order. Like for example, there is a sort of a specific order when you are describing a noun and you're using adjectives and you place the adjectives before the noun. There is sort of a specific order in which you are expected to describe this particular noun, but not here. Okay. An example for this task is, for example, I chose a TED talk. It's Patrick to Pat, I think it's the last name. It's called The Power of Cartoons, and you can find it here in this YouTube address. I recorded, I used 30 seconds. I skipped the first 10 to 15 seconds because there's a lot of applause, right? So it has to be 30 seconds of the person or the speaker actually speaking, okay? And then this is the presentation, right? And let me see if I can find I'm going to play this for you. Let me know if you cannot hear it, all right?
So yeah, I'm a newspaper cartoonist, political cartoonist. I don't know if you've heard about it, newspapers. You know, so,
Okay, here we go again. Sorry.
so yeah, I'm a newspaper cartoonist, political cartoonist. I don't know if you've heard about it, newspapers. You know, it's a, it's a sort of paper-based reader. It's lighter than an iPad. It's a bit cheaper. You know what they say? They say the print media is dying. Who says that? Well, the media. But this is no news, right? You've read about it already. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has gotten smaller. I know it's a cliche, but look how small, how tiny it has gotten. And
All right, so I skipped the first 15 seconds, and this is basically the script for his presentation. The first the first 30 seconds of his speech, and here I'm highlighting the consonant sounds, right? So that let me know if you're able to see this, because I always try to confirm if I'm sharing or not the correct. In this case, I'm trying to share the PowerPoint slide.
Yes, you are.
Yes, thank you so
Yes.
thank you so much. Thank you. So, for example, the first one is in so, right, which is a voiceless alveolar fricative, right? This one. The next one is ye, which is not actually a consonant sound, but it's a semi-vowel or a glide. Okay, but in general terms, it's a voiced sound. It's velar, and it's a glide. It's part of the approximant family. The sounds in which there is no really constriction or restriction of the airflow. Right. The following is in I'm, which is a voiced bilabial nasal sound. The next one is which is also voiced. It's alveolar, right? And it's a nasal sound as well as the previous one. I skipped here, right? Because I already defined that in so. So p in paper, right, is voiceless. It is bilabial sound, and it's plosive. Okay. Next one is which is voiced. It is an alveolar sound, and it's liquid, just like right? It's a liquid sound. Then cartoonists, we have k, which is voiceless, velar, and plosive consonant sound. Then t, which is also voiceless, it's alveolar and it's plosive. Okay. In political, it's a voiced alveolar liquid, just like right? And then in I don't know, the word don't in the initial sound is voiced. It's alveolar and it's plosive, very similar to t, right? Then is voiced, right? Because there's vibration of the vocal folds. Labiodental, because we used the upper teeth pressed against the bottom lips, and it is fricative, right? There's friction there. The initial sound in right is also fricative, just like the previous one, but it's voiceless and glottal. Then I have b, which is voiced, right? It's a bilabial sound, and it is plosive. Then I have in the section, it's later than an iPad, then, right? The is voiced, it's interdental and fricative. Then I have the adjective cheaper, right? Ch is voiceless, is post-alveolar or alveopalatal, and it is affricate. I think it's the only affricate sound that I have in this selection, in this excerpt. Then wu would be the other glide, just like e in ye, right here. Wu, it's also a glide. It's voiced and is a labiovelar, because when we produce this sound, we use the lips, right? And also the back of the tongue is raised against the velum or soft palate. Then In the section, they say print media is dying. Is always z and never s, right? It's always voiced, right? It's alveolar and fricative. And z can be found here in is, and also can be found in says. Who says that? Z says, all right? And finally, I have in dying, which is a voiced velar and nasal consonant sound. I found very interesting in the first section here. I'm a newspaper cartoonist, because this initial, after the first consonant here, the comes sorry, it comes a voiced velar glide, the one that we find in ye, right? New, eu, e is the same sound that we find here in ye, and followed by a short lax u. Okay, and in this case, I also found interesting who, because when we think about words starting with the grapheme or letter W, such as what, where, which, when we transcribe this word using a phonetic symbol, we think about this wu, right? This one, right? Which looks exactly the same as the grapheme or letter, but this is a phonetic symbol, right? But in this case, who is not represented by this sound because it's not the initial sound that we find here, who, but we find the voiceless glottal fricative, right? That we find in this one. Heard, right? Heard, who, okay? So that is misleading. It can be tricky if you find who and you think about what, where, and which that contain this initial sound represented by this symbol. In this case, it's not, right? It's so basically this is the phonemic analysis that you're required to do or perform. So select very carefully the section or the extract of the movie or the song or the speech or TED talk, considering that sometimes movies have very interesting scenes, very suspenseful, but whenever we have a suspense, it's like waiting a lot for something to happen. So there's a lot of dialogue, there's not a lot of speaking, right? The same for songs, in which you have to sometimes wait for a long introduction to finish, for the singers to start singing. Do you have any comments or questions about the task?
How many consonant sounds we have to describe?
How many sounds? Well, I think that's a very good question, because there's not a specific number, like thinking about a minimum of consonant sounds. But I would say that in order for the task to be beneficial and productive, right? I would say that if you consider to find at least something in between 10, that would be interesting. Good. Now, do not stress yourself if you cannot find a section in the selected piece that may not comply with the requirements of having at least 10 consonant sounds, because as you can see in the one that I chose, usually n was very repeated and p was also repeated. You can find it in many different words. For example, political, newspaper, paper-based, right? Print. So do not stress out about not finding the 10 consonant sound requirement. Okay. Now, the way you present this is totally up to you. Okay, you can use a PowerPoint presentation. You can do the analysis just by pausing the video, okay, and showing the closed captions. Um, but a suggestion would be that you could use maybe a pointer or something for us. If you're, for example, if you're using Word file, you may highlight the consonant sound or the letter that you want us to pay attention to. Okay, so you're not just talking, but also you are giving us some visual cue or clue for us to, follow your analysis. Okay, so this is going to be an analysis, but also this is going to be a formative quiz, and also it's going to be sort of a mini lesson, because at some point you can interact with your classmates, right? And you can ask your classmates about, for example, a specific sound. Like, for example, I don't know, let's suppose that I described the initial sound in newspaper and I said it was nasal. So if I were you, I would turn to my classmates and I would also ask them, I don't know, do you see any other nasal sound here in this script? Okay, so giving the chance to your classmates to participate. And for example, an answer could be media. It's also nasal. Okay, so that is, or how many nasal sounds can you find here? So I don't know, in newspaper, right? Again here, no, tricky one because of the spelling. Don't, another one. Dying, another one, right? Etc., etc. Or how many plosive sounds do you think there are in this script? How many affricate sounds do you think there are? So you can not only do the analysis solo or on your own, but also you can integrate the rest of the community. Okay? So you turn this into a mini lesson experience. Any questions or comments? Hello?
Guillermo have a question
Oh,
in
okay.
the chat.
Thank you so much. Eh, That is a tricky question, Guillermo, because if you don't belong to this section, what are you what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Because I have problem with the classes because I have classes at the same time in the other section.
Ah, and how are you solving that? How is that coming to a solution?
I am learning here, but I have to do the test with the other section.
Okay, um, that's a very good question, Guillermo. But in general, my uh, pedagogical philosophy makes me think that if you are taking the class or if you are participating in a class, you have to comply with the activities. I mean, you might be a visitor, but also if you're learning, I mean, you can teach the rest of your classmates. So I would say it wouldn't hurt you to work and do this activity. It wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Guillermo. Any other questions?
Teacher,
Yes.
if I have highlighted a sound once, it's not necessary that I highlight it twice, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Teacher,
Mm-hmm.
this is like a presentation. We
It is a presentation. I want you to look at this as a presentation, but it's actually more than that, because it is yes, it is a presentation, but you're going to be using technology, and you're
okay.
going to you're going to apply theory into a practical activity. Also, you are teaching your classmates. And as I mentioned before, use this opportunity not only to show your knowledge, but also to interact with your classmates. And you can ask them about specific sections. Before giving an answer, maybe you can give them clues to make them participate. So this does not turn into one person presenting and the rest just listening.
Okay, get it.
Okay,
And when is this happening?
this is happening next week. This is happening next session, and
On Monday?
This is happening next session on Monday and randomly, meaning that I'm going to put a piece of paper with a number, and then I'm going to ask some of you to, to give me, and then I'm going to put the number. I'm going to show you, and you will see the order in which you are given this sort of mini lesson.
Okay.
Camila, yeah, Camila, yes, PowerPoint, Word, in any way you consider. So in this sense, you have to make some judgment. You have to make some decisions. If you feel more comfortable with the PowerPoint presentation, or you are more comfortable dealing with Word, each one of these two resources have some specific challenges, right? And also um, some positive aspects. So it's totally up to you.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, remember that this is not graded, but this is an opportunity for you to practice, to show evidence of your knowledge. It's a formative quiz, so there will be some feedback, right, during the process. And remember that it's not just on your shoulders, the activity, but you can interact with your classmates, and you can actually sort of teach a lesson, a mini lesson about the resource that you selected. I strongly suggest that you select something that you are interested in, or that you really want to find out something about. Sometimes we like sort of stay into the same topic. Like if we like, I don't know, rock music, we just talk about rock music, listen to rock music. But sometimes if we open up to other areas, to other pastimes, or to other topics, we may learn something that could enrich ourselves as from a professional perspective and from a personal perspective. Okay, so challenge yourselves and try to find out something that might be interesting, but also unknown to you. So if there are no other questions, we're going to finish the session. Find out something, right, in the web. Particularly YouTube is quite has many options for you. So I'll see you next class. Any questions, let me know through this Teams, right? Or through an email, all right?
Okay,
Okay.
Alrighty. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, Professor.
bye. Have a nice
Bye.
day.
Bye.